Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Tuesday, April 30th, and we're going to talk about World of Warcraft. We have a great show lined up for you today. We'll be covering BlizzCon Updates, Cataclysm Classic Pre-Patch, the War Within Alpha, and Dragonflight Season 4. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And, as always, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or have a particular topic that you would like to hear discussed, please email me at denethar1@gmail.com, or you can leave a voice message by going to speakpipe.com/AzerothUnited. Also, if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That helps out our distribution tremendously, so if you're inclined to do so, we'd be very grateful. Before we get to the news, I wanted to do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW. So the first week of Season 4 was a banger. I had to figure out what I was doing as far as the Last Hurrah quests, as I'm sure everyone else did, and then ran around on my main character and some alts trying to do the feast and do the hunt and waiting for Dragonsbane Keep and waiting. But yeah, so I did. So I have 15 level 70s. I'm not going to do all 15. That's just ridiculous. But I did do 8. So I did 8 characters. Everybody did at least the Last Hurrah and 1 heroic or looking for raid. So yeah, I got 8 vaults to open up this week, and well, it was a lot. I really had fun. I did 1 Mythic 0 on my Demon Hunter, who I changed to Vengeance. I thought I'd give Vengeance a try Season 4. It's kind of a, just wanted to try something different, see how that goes. It was not as smooth as maybe I wanted it to be. I did Algathar Academy 0, but it was fine. I did okay. My item level was like 478, so it wasn't really ideal, but and then I tried to do a +2 on my monk, also Algathar Academy, and we couldn't get past the tree boss, so the group broke up. So yeah, mythics are hard. They're hard this time around. Yeah, ain't no playing around. I've got to say, the difficulty ramp from Heroic to Mythic 0 is hard. It's a huge ramp. And I honestly am now looking at this thinking, okay, so they planned this whole thing for the War Within, but they're releasing it early. We just don't have delves to fill in the holes here. So if you're a casual player, if you're mid-core, and you want to do some stuff, but you're not looking to do, you're not trying to push keys, you don't have a group that you're running +2s or 5s with, yeah, that's where delves would fit in. You do some heroics, you do some delves, you get some gear, you build your way up to Mythic 0, you build your way up to 2s and 4s, yeah, but as it stands right now, no, that's a huge jump. Heroics drop adventurer level gear, and Mythic 0 drops champion gear. There's nothing in between. You're getting veteran gear from doing the world content. So you get higher gear from just doing the weekly world content than you do from heroics. I think it's going to need to get fleshed out a little bit better going forward, but for now, it could use a little work. And I definitely think delves will fill that gap. So, all right, that's enough of that. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so we've got some kind of interesting news items this week, more company related than necessarily game related. First off, let's just hit the big news right off the bat. There will be no BlizzCon this year. Blizzard has announced that they will not be holding a BlizzCon event. And we can speculate as to the reasons why. They are saying that it's because they're not going to have anything big enough to announce. I mean, it's kind of like the World of Warcraft 20th anniversary and the Warcraft 30th anniversary, but I'm just saying. People are speculating that, the tickets didn't sell well last time, or because Microsoft has clamped down on the amount of money they can spend, and both of those might be true. But the reality is, BlizzCon's expensive, and unless you have something really big to announce and that you want to promote, it's really not worth their money to spend on that. I mean, they've canceled BlizzCon in the past where they just didn't have anything big to announce. I think 2012 there was no BlizzCon, and so it's really a matter of when you have a big event like that where you're bringing everybody together, you want it to be meaningful. It's not just a celebration. I mean, it is a celebration, but it's not just that. It's also a marketing tool for Blizzard to use to get people to want to pre-purchase their games, or to oh my gosh, I didn't even know that Diablo looks so cool, man. I'm gonna have to buy this new Diablo game or whatever. Not that anyone's gonna say that, because but still, I mean, it's a marketing event in addition to a celebration. So there will not be a BlizzCon this year. We'll see. I mean, so we know what the next 3 WoW expansions are going to be. So, I mean, we might see a BlizzCon next year when it's like, hey, let's talk about Midnight, and we're going to do some stuff there, and or maybe they'll have a new game. There have been some rumors that Blizzard is hiring people for a new game. So who knows? Maybe we'll see a BlizzCon next year. But as far as 2024 goes, there is no BlizzCon. So, which is a bummer, because honestly, I was considering going to this year's BlizzCon. But I guess not. Thanks, Blizz. But that gives me time to save up my nickels for next year's BlizzCon. So there you go. So if you were planning to do a guild meetup, or just wanted to go hang out in California, nope, next year, maybe, hopefully. We'll see. All right. So this one's also a little weird. The WoW Companion app is retiring. So Blizzard has been hot and cold on this thing. They had it. They got rid of it. They brought it back. They nerfed it. They changed it. It's like they can't quite figure out what to do with it. I've used this thing in the past, and the big thing, it's 2 things you can do with it that are really 3, really. So you can read guild chat, which is kind of cool if you're like at work and you can't log on to the game, but you want to know what's going on in guild. You can read guild chat in your guilds. You can check your mission tables for WoD, Legion, BFA, and Shadowlands. You can check all 4 of those and see what world quests are up, but you can't really do anything about it. And the third one is you can get things off of the auction house. You used to be able to sell things on the auction house. You can't do that anymore, but you can still buy things off the auction house. But you can't do any of that here coming forward because it's going to be retiring. So I guess they just decided that that's not worth maintaining, or maybe they already fired the people who, in the last round of layoffs, they might have let go of the people who were working on that app, and so it's just kind of coasting right now. In which case, it's probably best that it retires, because they don't have the money to spend maintaining an app. So, and you could say whatever you want about it, but the reality is, I'd rather they put their development time into a game rather than an app. Because as cool as it is to be able to check your guild chat on your phone, you know what? I'll take another raid tier. Thanks, Blizz. So, that's WoW Companion app retiring as of the War Within. So, there you go. That's an end of an era again. or whatever, however you want to look at it. All right, in the big game news this week is Cataclysm Pre-Patch will launch today. I think the servers have just gone live, so if you are itching to get in there and you want to check out the new stuff, the Cataclysm Pre-Patch will be here today. This should include the Worgen and Goblin races. This should include the new questing zones from 1 to 60, so all the new quests that are actually currently in retail. So no more old school style leveling. It's now the new, more formulaic questing zones, less just kind of random quests scattered throughout. It's going to follow a specific story. I call it questing on rails, but whatever you want to call it. It's now live in Classic, so the only way to check out the old style of leveling is to go to Classic Era or like a Season of Discovery. So it's an end of an era for Classic. I'll tell you right now, it makes me kind of sad. But you know what? Cataclysm was a good expansion. This is the only thing that I don't like, is they got rid of all that old stuff, all the old zones, all the old quests, all the old NPCs. That was the thing I didn't like. as far as the content goes, it was actually pretty good. So we'll also get the new talent trees, new spells, new so first of all, the new talent trees are huge because you can no longer just put talent points wherever you want. You have to choose a specialization, and once you do, then you put talent points into that specialization up to 30 points. I believe it's 30 points. Don't quote me on that. And then once you've done that, you can spend the rest of your points elsewhere. But you will get, I think it's 1 point every other level now instead of every level. So this is the beginning of the change to Miss Pandaria style talent rows, where you get a talent point every 15 levels. But this is the first stage of that, where you're getting fewer talent points, and they're more meaningful, more impactful, not 1% more damage for every point that you spend in this particular talent spot, and you can spend 5 points. So you get 5% more damage, which is cool, but it takes 5 talent points. They got rid of that because they said this is dumb. Why are we having play? I mean, especially once you get to level 85, that's going to be 75 talent points. That's a lot of talent points for players to just learn how to spend, which the reality is people just went to Wowhead and said, hey, how should I spec? And you just go through and you do exactly what it says on Wowhead. Maybe you change something here or there, but for the most part, it didn't really matter because there's way too many talent points. So they changed that in Mr. Pandaria. So these Cataclysm talent trees are much more simple than the Wrath of the Lich King ones, and they are much more impactful to the player. And when you choose your specialization at level 10, you get a signature spell that is specific for your specialization. So you get something really cool right off the bat, level 10, just by choosing the specialization, and then you can start putting your talent points in. So it's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, I don't love Cataclysm because of what it changed from Classic, because I'm old and I like things the way they were, right? But taken as its own thing, and if you forget all that stuff, yeah, it's a pretty good expansion. The biggest downfall of Cataclysm was that it started off good. It got really good in the second act with the Firelands, and then it completely petered out with Dragon Soul. Dragon Soul was just terrible raid. And so that's people's lasting impression of that is, hey, we spent a year in Dragon Soul, and it was terrible. And yeah, I don't blame you because, yeah, I did Dragon Soul, and it was terrible. So, yeah. All right, so we're going to... New talent trees. We're going to get the new profession of archaeology. So if you're just itching to do some triangulation in a video game, there you go, archaeology. Yeah. Let's see. The transmog collection system will be in the game, and I think it's using the modern transmog system, which is pretty cool. That'll be fun for people who have been wearing the same armor, or wearing whatever armor they get for the past 3 expansions. So now we'll get transmog, so that'll be really fun. I mean, this is just turning into retail light at this point, honestly. And then updated character and gear stats, so they're kind of streamlining some of the stats, getting rid of the weapon skill weapon skill points. So now if you know a weapon, you know how to use it, period. No more leveling up weapon skills and all that stuff. It's a streamlined, they're streamlining the game. And like I said, it's retail light, so it's basically everything that's in the game currently, just a earlier version of it. So, yeah, this is, one thing I didn't mention was the new race and class combination. So like a human hunter or a Tauren paladin and stuff like that. So, dwarf shaman. Yeah, so this is a big deal because Classic will never be the same. Season of Discovery will end eventually, and when it does, we're going to be left with, you could go to Classic Era to see the Classic. And this is what got us in trouble in the first place. It was around Miss Pandaria Warlord's Draenor that people started really kind of getting that itch for, hey, wait a minute, I want to go back to the way things were. And now here we are again. We're in Cataclysm, and this is going to, per Blizzard's own descriptions, it's going to probably take about a year to run through all of the Cataclysm content. And then what? Then what do we do? Are we going to go back to vanilla? Are we going to, fresh servers, start over? People are sick of that. They've already done it. Even in Season of Discovery, people don't want to level slow. They want to speed up leveling. So I don't know. I'm really not sure what's going to happen, except to say that Blizzard has at least some sort of a plan with Season of Discovery to continue that. So that might be the way that Classic moves forward. I don't know. And honestly, because of the Mists of Pandaria remix that's coming out next month, it's like in 2 weeks, I feel like that might be the way that they continue things forward. So we do Mop remix, and then we do a WoD remix. I mean, a Warlords of Draenor remix would actually be kind of fun. The leveling in Warlords of Draenor was great. And then you move on to Legion. I mean, why not? I don't know. I don't know what remains to be seen. It's certainly very interesting to discuss what might happen. And, maybe this is something that I'll kind of delve into in depth on a future podcast. I'd love to get some guests on to kind of talk about the future of Classic and where the hell is it going to go now. So, all right. So Cataclysm Pre-Patch today. Don't forget the Cataclysm itself will launch on May 20th. Okay. Speaking of Mop Remix, Blizzard has confirmed that the characters that we make in Mop Remix after it's over, so once we move into the War Within, will be eligible for Heritage Armor. So if you've always wanted a Heritage Armor for a Blood Elf or a Torrent or one of the allied races like a High Mountain or a Void Elf, this is your chance because those characters will be eligible for the Heritage Armor as if you leveled them the old style way. So that's pretty cool. Very fun for people who are looking for maybe a Heritage Armor for a race that they don't yet have. So it's something to keep in mind. Don't just make another Night Elf if you're looking for a different Heritage Armor. Make something different. So that I'll probably be making a dwarf. Knowing this, because the dwarf Heritage Armor is cool, but I've never been able to get a dwarf all the way up to max level. So I will make a dwarf. At the very least, I'll be making a dwarf, probably like a rogue or a warrior or something. But but I'm very much looking forward to the Mop remix. I'll do a little bit more about it next week. But this is very exciting. So, or in 2 weeks. Sorry, it's coming out in 2 weeks, not next week. Patch 10.2.7 comes out next week, but the Mop remix comes out the week after. So, all right, like I said, some kind of all over their news, and there's just so much going on with World of Warcraft right now. Honestly, it's getting really difficult to keep track of, and I do this all by myself. I go through Wowhead, or I'll look at the Blizzard news.blizzard.com and kind of keep track of what's going on, but. It's getting kind of tough. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do a news tracking type style podcast. I might want to just get more into depth into talking about the game and how people are playing it. So, it's with all the World Within alpha stuff, and I was going through all of that the other day preparing for the show. There's a lot of information out there, and it's getting hard to keep track of. I've got a job. I've got a life. I'm doing things on a daily. I'm not just sitting in front of my computer cataloging all of the information that comes through. So it's definitely a challenge. But I am enjoying talking about all of these things because this is what I do. I'm doing what I love, which is talking about World of Warcraft and Blizzard and these games. And so I'm very happy. But it has definitely gotten a little overwhelming with all of the news that Blizzard is hitting us with these days. So it's definitely a good time to be a World of Warcraft fan, but a challenging time to be a content creator and podcaster. So that being said, let's go on to what's happening this week in World of Warcraft.
Let's talk about World of Warcraft.
In Dragonflight, it is Season 4, Week 2. Right, so Season 1 was pretty good. It's a little difficult. Having Tyrannical the first week was it was a little bit of a challenge. But this week we're looking at Fortified, Entangling, and Bolstering. So Fortified, you know it, you love it, you love to see it. Non-boss enemies have more health and deal 30% more damage. Okay. Entangling vines periodically appear in slow players. Moving away from the vines will snap the vine and remove the debuff. If players do not move from the vine before the debuff expires, players are stunned for 3 seconds. Okay. It's a pretty easy affix, honestly. It's probably one of my favorites. Puts a temporary debuff on you, but really easy to deal with. I I like entangling. And then bolstering, non-boss enemies buff nearby allies on death, increasing damage by 20%. This affects stacks. So it's really important to remind everyone that this only affects 10 plus. So 10, which is the old 20. So if you're just trying to get myth gear in your vault, you'll never see bolstering. So I don't mind bolstering being terrible. Honestly, that's fine. You want to push keys? Great. Push keys and you'll get bolstering. But if it's just a normal group and you're running a 6 or an 8, no bolstering. Fortified and entangling, which is pretty easy, honestly. So, I mean, not that the dungeons are easy. I tried it, like I said, I tried it too last week, and it did not work out well. So, fortified entangling, and then bolstering for 10 plus. Not a bad week. I'm kind of looking forward to this. So, because I feel like the trash you can deal with, but the bosses was way too hard. So, all right. So we weren't really sure how this was going to work last week. So this week we'll add it to the normal rotation of things we're going to talk about. The last hurrah this week so everything is for Aberrus, the Shadow Crucible. So that's the raid that's available. That's the weekly content that's available. The world boss that's available. Everything is the content that's related to Aberrus. So you got the raid. Aberrus, the Shadow Crucible is awakened. So you're going to go Khazara through Scale Commander Sarkareth. If that was a raid you really liked, great. If it wasn't, then whatever. I mean, I didn't really love Aberrus. It wasn't bad. It was kind of boring. But it's fine. But that means that the weekly content this week, so we'll have the Zakali Elders in Zeralek Caverns will be the world boss that's awakened. So they will drop heightened loot, which, it's fine. Again, the Season 2 stuff really was not my favorite. Season 1 we really liked. Season 3 I really liked. Season 2, not so much. But that's okay. The Zakali Elders in Zeralek Caverns. So get into group there. Make sure that you keep them separated because a lot of times tanks like to group them up, and that's no bueno. Got to keep them separated because they heal each other otherwise. All right. And then the last hurrah is the Zeralek Caverns and Time Rifts. So this is going to be Researchers Under Fire, the Farak Assault, and the Time Rift. Which means that we're also going to get the Sign of the Awakened Embers buff, which will increase reputation gains with Lone Nifn, Rathian, Sibelian, and Sora Dormi by 50%. So every major public event that is weekly will give you a cache of Awakened Embers, or should give you a cache of Awakened Embers. So that includes things like the Dream Surge, the feast, the hunt, the super bloom, in addition to Researchers, Farak Assault, and Time Rift. So, and those will drop veteran 480 gear. Should. Again, we don't know. The servers aren't back up yet, at least not last time I checked. And so it's, if you're trying to gear up an alt, this is really fast. So, I mean, for me, it's pretty much every character of mine is getting useful gear from these caches. But, so this is... now we understand why they didn't want to have this be 2 weeks of Vault of the Incarnates and then 2 weeks of Aberrus and then 2 weeks of Amir Soul, because this last hurrah is tied to the raid, in addition to the rep being tied to the raid. So they wanted to alternate every week, because not everyone's... If you're progging raid content, then it makes sense. But if you're not, then you're like, why are we doing this again? We just did it last week. So I get it. But anyway, make sure you check those out. The Zakali Elders will drop champion level gear. And then, like I said, all the cache of Awakened Embers and the rewards from the public events should all be veteran level gear. So really good. I like the way they're doing the gearing in Season 4 so far. It feels really good. Just in the first week, I'm like, wow, this feels great. So I'm really happy with it. I feel like they learned from last time, because last time the Zereth Mortis did not give improved gear. So you were doing the world content and it was basically worthless. So Yeah, this is really good. I'm really happy with how things are going here. As far as other weekly events, we have the Battleground bonus event. So you'll get the Sign of Battle buff, which is honor gains from Battleground objectives when wins increase by 50%. And you also get a quest from Khazra and Baldraken called A Call of Battle to win 4 Battleground matches, and you'll get Marks of Honor and Conquest. Yeah, this one's... I've I've spoken out about this one before. The Battleground bonus event is kind of boring to me, but you know what? Some people like Battleground, so that's fine. Okay, the PvP brawl for this week is Packed House. So I love their description. We've put more PvP in your PvP. In Packed House, there's nowhere to hide as you face not 2, not 3, not 5, but 15 adversaries in this 15 versus 15 arena battle. So it's exactly what it is. It's 15 on 15 arena. Everybody dies really fast. Yeah. So when you enter, you'll get the quest Something Different, which requires you to win a PvP brawl. You might have to do it a few times to win, but when you do, you'll get Conquest, Honor, and Marks of Honor. Yeah. Children's Week is continuing this week, so it'll go through May 6th. So you can pick up your orphan, take them around, show them how to fight, show them how to be a murder hobo. You get the orphans in Orgrimmar, Stormwind, Kultiris, Zandalar, Shattrath, or Dalaran. It's fun. It's not as grueling as it used to be when they had the PvP content in the meta achievement, but it's good. Let's see. The Northrend Cup started today, so the Riders of Azeroth invite Dragon Riders to compete in races throughout Northrend. Talk to Lord Androstraz in Valdrakken for more information. So this is going to run through May 13th, which is it's very nicely. We'll finish up just before the MOP Remix comes out, so that's pretty cool. If you're looking for some additional content that's not M+ or Raid related, you could do your Northrend Cup, and then you could do your MOP Remix. So there's 12 races in Northrend, and they each have 3 variants: normal, advanced, and reversed. Scalawag, Slither, Black River, Burble, Maker's Marathon, Dragonflight. It's very clever, and so on. So yeah, check that out. I think there's some new transmog available, but I would check on the vendor in Valdrakken to see what's available to purchase. But yeah, I'm really glad they're continuing on with these cups. It's nice to go back and check out the old content. It's not as exciting now because we can Dragon Ride there anyway, but it's still pretty cool. So, all right, and finally this week we have the Darkmoon Fair starting on Sunday, May 5th. And the Darkmoon Fair, you got to go ride the merry-go-round or the roller coaster, get your Reputation XP buff. You can do your quest for your professions. If you haven't maxed out your profession knowledge points or your profession skill points, you'll get some points there from doing those profession quests. You get Reputation with the Darkmoon Fair, so you can buy different transmogs or the dirigible, or there's some pets. It's just lots of things to do at the fair. It's really fun. I always really like going to the fair. I do it on a few alts. Generally speaking, it's really fun to go there with somebody, but even if you're by yourself, it's still a pretty fun time. So check out the Darkmoon Fair, May 5th through May 11th. There were a lot of hot fixes that went in last week to fix the Season 4 content, because obviously it launched with more bugs than Encourage, but we're not going to go over those. Suffice it to say, things are pretty much working the way they're supposed to now, and as far as the Season 4 content goes. So I think we're just going to... we're just going to dive right into something new.
Let's talk about something new.
Okay, there's been a ton of War Within alpha information that has come out over the last 2 weeks or so. And so I've gone through and kind of compiled some information that I really wanted to know about, because just things that I wanted to know. Since I don't have access to the alpha, I've been kind of relying on other people to find this information out, but primarily Wowhead. Thank you, Wowhead. But more than anything, I wanted to kind of get an overview of, like, what are things going to look like? Because you could go through and read Wowhead articles for days on end and still not really understand what's going on. So I'm going to do this in 2 parts. This week we'll do everything but the class changes, and the next week will be class changes, because honestly the class changes is happening so fast, and they're modifying things and then changing them again. it's who knows what that's going to look like in 2 weeks, in 5 weeks, in 7 weeks. But the things that we do know, and we're going to go through everything here that we do know. There's going to be some changes, some things returning that we were expecting, but it's nice to see confirmation. So let's just go through it. We're going to start with professions. For professions, the Dragonflight profession system was, by all accounts, a pretty good success. Everybody really liked it. There were some frustrating things about it, but overall, I think it was a really good update to the profession system. The specializations in the professions, where we had to go through and put points into the different trees to get different things. So that's all going to start over. So those points that you spent so far will be specific to Dragonflight professions. And so when you get your Khazalgar professions, those will be starting at 0. So you'll have to, again, level up how to herb while mounted, and you're going to get more of this type of herb or whatever. Different crafting, all of that stuff is going to start over. So while that might be frustrating to some people, especially people who maxed out their specialization points, I think it's necessary, because you don't want people to have to feel like, oh, well, I've got to go back and do Dragonflight in order to, otherwise I'm behind. So you got to kind of do a reset every expansion for this stuff anyway. So that's fine. I think, what did they change the profession system in Legion to make it expansion specific? So this makes sense. All right. So with that, there is a change to inspiration. So inspiration was a big deal in Dragonflight, because what would happen is crafters would say, okay, well, I'm gonna craft this thing for you, but I can only do it 4 stars. So if you give me 10,000 gold, I'll keep recrafting it using my mats until I get a proc, and then you'll get a 5-star or whatever. And this is a way that crafters were able to make money and kind of make themselves unique amongst the people yelling out in trade chat. This didn't really happen on the server that I'm on, because there was just so few crafters. It was basically like a 2-person mafia of crafters. But so what's going to happen is inspiration will change. It's going to be replaced with concentration. And the way concentration works is the longer it has a charge, and the more it builds up, you can spend those points on guaranteeing a skill up in difficulty. So if you could craft a 4-star, you spend concentration, and now you are guaranteed a 5-star. But then you have to let it recharge. So this is going to be a way for people to kind of, all right, well, I just used my concentration charge, or I used my concentration points, but the more you put into it, the faster it recharges, or the more points you get. We're not exactly sure on how it's going to work, but that's what we've seen so far, and it looks pretty cool. I like that a lot better than inspiration, which was a gamble. I've made stuff before where I had to recraft it 5, 6, 7 times before I got our inspiration proc, that doesn't feel good. So I like this better. I think this is going to be an improvement to the crafting portion of the professions. So yeah, I like that. Speaking of crafting, there's going to be new embellishments. Just like with any new expansion, you've got all the new trade skill related things. So yeah, there will be all new embellishments, including new embellished gear that you can craft. So just like we would expect, the embellishment system was by and large a pretty successful one. I think that some people were maybe frustrated with having to have some stuff that was not at level cap. So for season 3, that would be, I think the professions maxed out at 486, but your myth track gear could max out at 489. People didn't like that, but you know what? The embellishments were worth it. So, and they're going to come back, and we're going to stick with that system. I think overall it worked pretty well. There will be a new spark, just like there was in Dragonflight. This will be the Spark of Omens, and it'll probably come out in the same manner. We'll get one every other week, or we'll get a fragment every other week. No, we'll get a fragment every week after the first week, in which we'll get 2 fragments. And then, so you'll get a spark on week 1, and then on week 3, and then on week 5, etc. Sorry, that was confusing. But the spark system will work just like it did in Dragonflight. Not like in Season 4. Season 4 looks to be a little bit different, but yeah. So, the new spark system will be the Spark of Omens. In addition, for crafting, so one of the big complaints that we saw was that there were no, on low pop servers, there was no way to level up through crafting orders, because what would happen is you get to 70, 80 some skill points in your crafting skill, and then the only way to skill up is to use sparks to craft high-level epic gear. Well, if you're on a low-pop server, those orders just aren't there. And even if you're on a high-pop server, you could be somewhere where there's a lot of people who are crafting things, and there's just not a lot of availability to do these orders. So Blizzard's solution is to have NPCs submit work orders. So it'll be low commission. You're not going to make money off of it, really. But it will allow you to get a skill up. So I think that's pretty cool. Make a pair of braces for Khadgar, or make a new gun for Magni, whatever it is. I don't know which PCs are going to send work orders, but regardless, and Khadgar may not be around to send those work orders, spoiler alert. But that's I think it's a good change, because that was something I was really frustrated. I couldn't skill up all my professions until Season 2, when I used my old sparks to craft stuff that was no good anymore. But it's like, well, I've got these sparks, so I would just burn through whatever materials, and it's like, I don't care if it's a 3-star or anything, because I'm not going to use this. I'm just using it for the skill up, which doesn't feel good. That's a terrible way to have your crafting system work. So this is a good option. So there's going to be some pretty big changes coming for herbalism. The botany tree is going to get completely reworked. So in Dragonflight, it was more focused on improving your finesse, your deftness, your perception, and in this expansion is going to focus on getting the different types of seeds. So all the different seeds that you could get in Dragonflight, they're going to increase that, and you're going to be able to get different ones and different seeds do different things and give you different kinds of herbs. And then once we get to Hallowfall, and we haven't been able to get there yet, but this has been data mined, that there will be a farm that you'll be able to use to plant the seeds. So you won't have to fly around looking for the rich soil. You'll be able to just plant them on your farm. And then also there's going to be camouflaged herbs, and it's going to work like the war mode herbs that you can only see if you had war mode on, except that they are truly camouflaged. You can't see them at all. So there's only 2 ways to see them. You can get a file of True Sight, or you can use specialization points to be able to see camouflaged herbs. I think that's kind of cool. I like that. Get a little, early on you got to get your files to be able to see them, but then later on I've maxed that out. Now I can see these invisible herbs, or the camouflaged herbs. So that's pretty cool. For jewel crafting, there's going to be new sockets for rings. So in the same way that we had the neck sockets in Dragonflight, there's going to be now ring sockets. It's going to be 2 sockets per ring, and it's going to work the same way. You'll have to, if you use a 1-star, you use 1 socket, 2 stars for 2 sockets, 3 stars for 3 sockets, or for the 3rd socket, I should say. And then there's going to be a vicious jeweler's setting for PvP gear. So you can put sockets on your PvP gear. So this only works for PvP gear. And Blizzard seems like they're doing a lot for PvP this time around. So that's pretty cool. Some of the embellishments on crafted epics, some of the effects look like they're going to really kind of ramp up the group synergy. Like if you heal a certain party member, then you get an effect for both of you, or randomly one of the party members, depending on their gems, it's going to give you a different benefit. So there's just some interplay between the groups. There were some trinkets like that in Dragonflight. I think it was like the Whispering Incarnate icon, and there was another one I forget. But regardless, they're really trying to play up the group synergy, and what you have as a group improves everyone, not just they're trying to reward group play and rather than selfish play. So I think that's good. I don't really play with a group too often, but when I do, it's nice to have that synergy kind of firing on all cylinders. So that's pretty cool. I like that. There will be new raid consumables, of course, the same ones that we have currently, potions and files and food and all the stuff that we currently have, but some interesting ones that have been data mined here. So we have enchanting weapon oils, which are making a comeback, so that's pretty cool. So enchanters will be able to make some raid consumes. The alchemy flasks and the alchemy flask and potion cauldrons will be warbound, so you'll be able to keep them in your war bank, and then whichever character is coming, if you bring in an alt or whatever, they can just grab those out of the war bank and bring them to the raid, which is really cool. So they're essentially not soulbound anymore, but it's just specific to you. But you don't have to be an alchemist to be able to bring them to the raid, which is huge. So that means that we'll see a lot more availability of flask and potion cauldrons. Engineering is going to be able to make some potion bombs, ? I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but yeah, it was data mined, and we're not really sure that, some of this stuff we're guessing. Somebody data mined it on Wowhead, and it looks like it's going to make sense, but we don't really know how it's going to work. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, if engineering could make raid consumes, I think that would be great. Something other than the transmorpher that changes your race, which is always fun in raid. But and then things like the leatherworking drums will be there. Just the runes from Inscription, all that stuff will continue over from the War Within. So it's the crafting looks like they're really iterating on the crafting system, trying to improve it, trying to make it not expansion specific, like, the crafting system, you have to have Dragonflight or you have to do Dragonflight to really make benefit of it. No, it looks like they're going to move everything update everything to the War Within, and so we'll be able to. If you have a friend who just starts playing this expansion, guess what? They don't need to worry about the old stuff. They can just focus on the new, which I like that. I don't like having to go back and do old stuff. Like engineering was a really big thing for me. You're like, if you want this thing from engineering, the mailbox, Molly, you had to go back to, was it Wrath of the Lich King? Oh, come on. I don't want to do that. I get it. Some recipes are specific to an expansion, like the motorcycle was specific to Wrath of the Lich King. Fine, I get it. That's not a problem. But something like an everyday usage item, like a mailbox, you should be able to get that anywhere. So I know that they've added new stuff for that I think it was in Shadowlands, they added a new mailbox. But regardless, it's nice to see things that are specific to the expansion are not required moving forward. Like everything moves on with the profession system. So that's really what's going to make it an evergreen system and not something tied to the Dragonflight expansion. So, all right. For races, there's just one thing that I wanted to point out here, which is that Drakthir, it's two things actually. So Drakthir will be able to steady flight soar in the War Within, so they'll be able to fly like druids, and then they can switch it the same way that you would switch your dynamic mount and your static flying mount. So the Drakthir and the druids both soar and flight form will work in the same way, and so yeah, that'll be really cool. So you can just kind of fly and hover. I really like that. It's really good for like herbing and or mining. I think. Can you mine in bird form now? I don't remember. Anyway, so yeah, that's the new thing for Drakthir. And then, like I said, druids also will be able to flight form. Will be either static or dynamic flying. You can choose either way. I don't think you can change it while you're in flight form. I think you have to land and then you can switch it and then you can go back. So, it's a small thing, but it would be really nice if you could make flight form specifically static and then have all your mounts be specifically dynamic. But we'll see. We'll see how that works out. I'm not sure if Blizzard is going to allow that. At least not right away. I'm sure that'll be something that they'll change down the road because people are going to complain, and of course they're going to complain. As far as gear and items go, so there's some things that have been data mined, and take it all with a grain of salt. Because it could all change at a moment's notice. But so there's some new Night Elf weapons that were data mined that match the Heritage armor, that actually match. And looks like there's some stuff available for two-handed weapons and whatnot. So that's pretty cool, because that was something that I didn't really love. It's like, well, if I can't, like my warrior uses two-handed swords. And it's like, well, these one-hand sword transmogs are cool, but that doesn't really do me any good. I can't really use them, so... honestly, that's one of the reasons why I don't use the Heritage armor, because it just there's nothing that she can use that will match that. So anyway, they data mined a new heirloom ring coming from the pre-patch event. So if you haven't gotten the one from, I think the Stranglethorn fishing event, then there's a new heirloom ring coming from that. There will be new pre-patch gear coming the pre-patch event gear will be warbound, so your alts will be able to use that. In addition, augment runes will be returning. Hopefully they'll make it a little easier to get them this time around, but yes, we will be getting augment runes, as most people expected. Also, the Revival Catalyst Flight Stones and Crests will be returning. So the Flight Stones are going to be renamed Valor Stones because Flight Stones obviously is specific to Dragonflight. The new crests are coming in. They are Weathered Harbinger crests, Carved Harbinger crest, Runed Harbinger crest, and Gilded Harbinger crest. No idea which one is which as far as the what's going to be the new aspect crest or whatever, but these are the new currencies. And then there's some new Warband toys. So there's the Warband map to Everywhere All at Once, which will once you've explored the map on your main, then your alts can use this toy to uncover everything on the map. But the flight paths will be warbound no matter what. So it's just, if you want to explore the map yourself, get the map exploration XP, kind of have that sense of discovery. You want to RP, oh my gosh, it's a new character. He's exploring things on his own. Then you can do that. But if you just want to see everything, there's a toy that you can do that. And then there's the Warband Bank Distance Inhibitor, which will allow you to access your Warband bank on a 10-minute cooldown. So pretty cool. It's there's lots of really good stuff coming in War Within so far. I'm really excited about these new toys because sometimes you just don't want to deal with it. You're like, look, I've done this. This is my 9th alt. I just want to see the fucking map. So, and also the heirloom ring is huge because I can't tell you how many times I've started a level 1 and been like, God damn stupid Stranglethorn fishing tournament. So, anyway, all right, PvP. So there's a new battleground, which is Deep Hall Ravine. This is kind of like a mix of Silver Shard Mines and Arathi Basin. Okay, so you're going to collect 1,500 resources by escorting minecarts. And then there's going to be a central control point that you're going to want to hold. So yeah, it's it's like Silver Shard Mines looks like is the really good comparison. So, I see. What did I stop doing battlegrounds in Legion? I did a little bit in Shadowlands, but for the most part, I was kind of done with battlegrounds. I don't enjoy the PvP anymore. I'm too old. My reflexes are too slow. I get confused and I'm trying to hit Pyroblast and I end up blinking, or I don't know. I'm just bad at PvP. So, but yeah, this is I'll check it out. I'll look at the new battleground. I've done every single battleground previously, even the ones that they've taken out. So, yeah, it's cool. And then the Battleground Blitz will be a formalized PvP mode, just like Solo Shuffle was in Dragonflight. So you'll be able to do Battleground Blitz, and there will be all the associated rewards with it. So I think it's cool. They're adding new pillars to PvP. So if you take PvP and PvE endgame and separate them, then you could say, well, what are the pillars of PvP endgame? You have Battlegrounds, rated Battlegrounds, Arena, and Solo Shuffle, and now you can add Battleground Blitz onto there. So I think it's cool. I think it's there's been a lot of complaining that Blizzard doesn't care about PvPers, and by and large I do agree with that, but they obviously are trying to give back a little to the community. So hopefully that's fun if you like PvP. Okay, let's move on to Delves. Okay, so they give us a little video on Delves, but the long and the short of it is Delves are 1 to 5 player role agnostic mini dungeons that can be completed in 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes on average. So think of it as a instanced world quest where you can go in and do whatever it is you're going to do, but at the end of it you'll get a reward. So the lower tiers of Delves will be available while leveling, and then the higher tiers of Delves will be available at level 80. There will be a group finder option for Delves. So if you want to, just trying to find a Mythic Plus group, you can find a Delve group. There's no auto queue for Delves. You have to actually go there. You'll get a companion every season of the War Within for the Delve. This season 1 will be Brand Bronzebeard, and he can be either a DPS or a healer, not a tank. So I think it's important that people realize that you don't need a tank for Delves, but you do need to have some healing capability. So if you can't self-heal, maybe have Brand do some healing for you. And I think he'll put down healing potions, and then you can go pick those up. And then you can level him up as well. Says Brand and future Delve companions can be leveled through Delves and learn new abilities as they level up. Once they reach the maximum level of 20, you will start finding utility and combat curios to give them trinket-like abilities to help clear Delves even faster. So that's pretty cool. There are 12 delves that are scattered across Khazalgar. Looks like it's going to be 3 per zone because we have 4 zones, so 3 times 4 is 12. And then in Season 1, there's going to be a 13th delve that will be unlocked after you've done all 12 delves. I think you have to do them on max level. I'm not sure. And then there's going to be, it's just a one boss encounter. So this is going to be kind of like a mage tower type thing where you've got to go in and he's going to be really hard and you've got to learn how to use all your abilities and hopefully you've leveled up Bran, etc. So we don't have all the details on that, but just know that there will be the 13th delve and that'll be like the delve endgame. It's like the delve raid. Delves have dynamic objectives that can change daily. So one day you'll go in and it'll be escort a minecart. Then the next day you go in and it'll be burn all the spider eggs, whatever. Chests at the end of delves will include things like core progression rewards, upgrade track items, delve currencies, and a unique reward, the Delve Dirigible Delvers. The Delver's Dirigible Mount. The Delver's Dirigible Mount is a customizable mount. It's the flying machine mount. So you could make it a airplane, you could make it a blimp. There's all sorts of customizations you can check out on it. It actually looks really cool. I'm really excited about that. And the thing with delves is that the rewards are going to be, some of the rewards are delve specific and some of the rewards are going to be gear that you can just get. The items from delves will scale based on the difficulty of the delve and will cap out at an equivalent of heroic raid or mythic +5. So this is the new mythic +5, not the old mythic +5. So that'll be about it's going to be champion gear drop and then hero in the vault, which is fine because honestly right now I could use I could use an accessible form of champion gear farming that's not hope you get into the raid, bro. So yeah, that's really cool. And then the Great Vault will have a track that's exclusive to delve, so it'll be raid, dungeon, and delve. And then there's going to be just a lot of cosmetics that you'll get from delves. So the delves look really cool. I'm really curious to see how the higher level delves stack up because a lot of people who tried the low level ones, obviously they were like, well, this is dumb. And it's like, well, that's for leveling. And I don't think anybody ran a normal dungeon and thought, this is dumb. This is for Mythic Plus is way harder than this. And it's like, well, yeah, you're right. It is. This is the leveling delve. The difficulty will go up. It'll get harder and you'll get better rewards, but you will not get hero drops. You will not get hero gear from the delve and you will not get myth gear from the vault. So just something to keep in mind. Maybe that's going to change in the future. I don't know, but as it is right now, it's about, like I said, a mythic +5. So, it's going to be really good gear, but it's never really going to be something that you're going to want to do for true endgame profession. So that your endgame is delves, if this is what you're doing. So overall, I'd say I'm pretty excited about the delves, but there's a lot that remains to be seen. So we'll see how it goes. More to come on delves for sure as the alpha ramps up and as the zones continue to open up. The players get to level 80. We'll see the high level delves and we'll see how that works. So, all right. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about really briefly there are some spoilers here. So if you're not interested in spoilers, skip to the timestamp for the weekly rant. But basically there's some earthen lore that we've got. So we're trying to understand like the main thrust of the story. So what it boils down to is the earthen. We meet them in the first zone in Isle of Dorn, Khazalgar. So they are stone dwarves, obviously. So it's like, think of them like stone robots. So they're unable to access their memory archives. So their memories are erased when they recharge, so they upload their memories to the archive, but they can't access right now for whatever reason. So since their archive is down, they can't recharge. And then so there's a lot of things that they just don't know. But Dornogal, their capital city, has been around longer than the Sundering, so it's a very ancient civilization, blah, blah, blah. So the main thrust of the story here, I guess, is that Xalatath has corrupted some of the earthen. She has reactivated the archive, but done so in a voidy, sinister sort of way, and tricks the earthen into following her by having them recharge, and then now they are void earthen. So that's the Skarden, the void corrupted earthen that we are going to. It's going to be one of the primary antagonists of the, of season 1. So, and then there's going to be a thing with Magni where he will sacrifice himself to restore the machine, but he's just going to get rid of his stone form and he'll go back to his old flesh and blood model. So, like I said, just some really quick story details. Spoiler alert, but it's kind of interesting how that all works out. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this segment, but like I said, we'll go over all of the class changes because there are a ton of class changes, hero talent changes, and the like. We'll go over all that next week or in 2 weeks, because next week we're going to be talking about patch 10.2.7. But anyway, that'll wrap it up for something new. Let's go on to the weekly rant.
It's time for the weekly rant.
So Dragonflight Season 4 has kicked off, and we've gotten the first week of it, and by all accounts, it's pretty good. But I've heard some complaining, and I've heard some confusion and some misinformation that's been kind of bandied about around the internet. So I wanted to kind of touch on this topic because I feel like it's really an important one for not just for the health of the game, but the health of the players, the emotional well-being of the WoW players. We can be an emotional roller coaster for sure. So there's a lot of talk about the missing raid tier and what was sacrificed for Dragonflight. What did we give up for the War Within? I've even commented on that in the past, and I do believe that while maybe we didn't lose a raid tier for Season 4, I don't think that the Dragonflight story was complete as is from the beginning. I think that what Steve Denizer cooked up 2-3 years ago is probably not what we ended up getting. And that's fine, because I've really enjoyed what we've gotten so far. But I do think that it's worth looking at what has come before and what could potentially be coming in the future. Because one of the things that we have kind of grown or heard the complaining of is like, well, we didn't get a Season 4. We always get a Season 4. Well, that's not true. It's not necessarily true. Let's go back to the beginning of WoW. It's November 2004. Flashback. So World of Warcraft launched with Molten Core and an Ixis Layer as the 2 raids. 11 bosses. And it was 230 days before we got Blackwing Lair. And if you really want to, you can combine Blackwing Lair and Zul'Grub into a raid tier or raid season, if you will. To go, okay, Season 2 was Blackwing Lair and Zul'Grub. Now, they didn't launch at the same time, but they launched around at the same time, so you can group them up. They didn't really know what they were doing back in vanilla, so we've got to kind of look at this through the modern lens of raid seasons and then try to understand what that meant back then. So, okay, so we got Blackwing Lair, Zul'Grub, 18 bosses, although some of them are in 20 player, and that lasted for 175 days. So not a bad raid tier overall. And like I said, we didn't get Zul'Grub at the beginning of it. We got it partway through. So not the worst setup. Then we got Encourage, which is 2 raids, 15 bosses, lasted for 167 days. Again, not bad. If you wanted to say, okay, well, we're going to show that in weeks, I'm just going to put that in my spreadsheet here. So Season 1 lasted for 32, almost 33 weeks. Season 2 lasted for 25 weeks. Season 3 lasted for almost 24 weeks. And then we get to Nax. Nax, 15 bosses, 30 plus weeks. 30 and it looks like 30 in a day. So, it's, people said, oh, we didn't have enough time to do Nax. Well, you had 30 weeks, which is more time than we had to do Sepulchre, the first ones, or Mirror Soul. Just saying. All right. So that's vanilla. And given that, like I said, they didn't know what they were doing, kind of making it up as we go, that's not bad. If we apply that same lens to the Burning Crusade, we get a weird picture here. First of all, they released 5 raids right off the bat. Now, 2 of them were going to take a lot longer to get into because of attunements. And in Classic, they rectified this by having those releases a different phase. That's Serpent Shrine, Cavern, and Tempest Keep. And that's fine. But in original Burning Crusade, that's not how it went. So we had Karzon, Gruul Slayer, Magtheridon Slayer. Technically could be viewed as Season 1. I think they were Tier 4 as far as gear goes. And then Serpent Shrine, Cavern, Tempest Keep, Tier 5, Season 2. But all of those released together. And if you calculate out the amount of time that we spent on all 5 of those raids, it's 126 days or 18 weeks. That is a short-ass season. Then we got Mount Hyjal and Black Temple, which, again, Mount Hyjal was in the game, but you couldn't get to it. And then Black Temple obviously got added in patch 2.1, and that was 25 weeks for those 2 raids. So that's Season 3. So we're really flying through the content here in Burning Crusade, and then we get the lull. So you could do this one of 2 ways. You could combine Zul'Aman and Sunwell Plateau into one season. You could separate them out. If you combine them, which I'm inclined to do here, because Zul'Aman was catch-up gear for Sunwell, but that was all one basically kind of period of time in the Burning Crusade. It's 52 weeks between the time that Zul'Aman came out and the time that Wrath of the Lich King came out. So we spent a lot of time doing that. But that's 2 raids, 12 bosses, plus Black Temple and Mount Hyjal gear was still good. You still wanted the Warglaives off of Illidan. It's not like it was replaced, right? Seasons were different back then. You could still run Molten Core in vanilla and get gear that was useful in Naxxramas. Not most of it, but some. And then in Wrath of the Lich King, we start to get a more seasonal approach. Although it still wasn't seasons, but we do kind of get a glimpse of that. So we have Naxxramas, Obsidian Sanctum, Eye of Eternity. Those all released on launch, and that was 152 days. That was 22 weeks from launch to the release of Ulduar, which was 16 weeks until the launch of Trial of the Crusader. And then you can throw Nixia's Lair in there as well, which was 18 weeks until Icecrown Citadel. And then we got Icecrown, and we sat there for 52 weeks, or a year, basically, until we got Cataclysm. So I think we're starting to sense a trend here. We rush through the content, we give a bunch of stuff really fast, and then we drop out. And then nothing new. Yeah, Ruby Sanctum got released 6 months into that season, or that raid tier, but honestly, that one boss raid, it wasn't much. Even in Wrath Classic, when they launched it, people killed it in like 7 minutes. So, okay. So if we move on to Cataclysm. Now we get into the 3-season period, where you have Cataclysm, Mop, and WoD all had 3 raid seasons or raid tiers. Cataclysm, you've got Blackwing Descent, Bastion of Twilight, and Throne of the Four Winds. 13 bosses. Okay, Season 1. That was 29 weeks. Firelands, Season 2, 7 bosses, 22 weeks. And then Dragon Soul, 8 bosses, Season 3, 43 weeks. So not quite as long, but only 8 bosses. So we went from 13 bosses in Icecrown and Ruby Sanctum to 8 bosses. So, okay, it was still 301 days. Then in Mop, we got Mogashan Bolts, Heart of Fear, Terrace of Endless Spring, 16 bosses, 23 weeks. Then we got Throne of Thunder, 13 bosses, 27 weeks. And Siege of Orgrimmar, and this is the big one, 14 bosses, but 64 weeks. 64 weeks. Yeah. That happened. Yeah, there you go. But again, 3 seasons. We had multiple patches that had no raid tiers, but it was really just it was like getting a patch full of world quests. And if they did that now, people would riot. So, continuing on, we have WoD. You had High Maul, which was released, and you only had 9 weeks of High Maul before you got Blackrock Foundry. So, you could kind of combine them into one season. I don't know. You could say that WoD is the only expansion that had 2 seasons, but so you got High Maul, then Blackrock Foundry, then Hellfire Citadel. So 9 weeks of High Maul, 20 weeks of Blackrock Foundry, and then 65 weeks of Hellfire Citadel. Again, just a heinous amount of time in one raid. That brought us to Legion. Now we're back to the 4 seasons. Not the hotel, but 4 raid seasons. First season, Emerald Nightmare. Then we got the Trial of Valor thrown in there, 17 weeks. The Nighthold, which was 22 weeks. Tomb of Sargeras, which was 23. And Antorus, the Burning Throne, which was 40. That's not bad. 40 weeks is not bad, considering that we had 4 raid tiers and a total of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 raids. That's not bad. And there's a reason that Legion is considered one of the best expansions ever released. If you move on to BFA, you've got Uldir and then Battle of Dazar'alor. So Uldir was 20 weeks, Battle of Dazar'alor was 24 weeks. You can throw Crucible of Storms in there with Battle of Dazar'alor, but it came out in between Battle and Eternal Palace, so we'll throw it in with Battle of Dazar'alor. But so 20 weeks for Uldir, 24 for Battle of Dazar'alor and Crucible of Storms, 28 for Eternal Palace, and then 46 for Ny'alotha. Now, to be fair to Ny'alotha, when that released in January, 2 months later, everybody was working from home because of COVID. So even though it was 46 weeks, we'll give it some slack. I don't feel like that's as bad as people have made it out to be. It's not the worst. Okay, so now we're into Shadowlands. Shadowlands, Castle Nathria, 30 weeks. Sanctum of Domination, 34 weeks. Sepulchre of the First Ones, 22 weeks, and then we got a 19-week Season 4, which was all 3 raids combined. That's not bad. There was a little long in the tooth for Castle Nathria and Sanctum of Domination, Season 1 and Season 2. But again, COVID really affected that. And then we get into Dragonflight. Vault of the Incarnates, 22 weeks. Aberrus, the Shadow Crucible, 27 weeks. Amir to Seal the Dream's Hope, 23 weeks. And now we're going to get about a 16 to 18 week Season 4, I'm guessing. All that said, we haven't necessarily always gotten a Season 4. There was a time period where it was kind of hit or miss. But we did get it in the beginning of WoW, and we got it in kind of the air quote golden era of WoW, which was the Legion BFA era, where people were really, or I guess you could call it the Silver Age, right? So if classic vanilla TBC and Wrath of the King is the golden age, then Legion and BFA would be the Silver Age. Whatever you say about BFA story, that was a great expansion. But now we're down to, we're only getting 3 raid tiers and then a Season 4 of Greatest Hits. Or a Victory Lap, whatever you want to call it. But whatever you want to call it, it's not a full raid tier, but it is a kind of a culmination. So would you rather have that we have had 40 weeks of Sepulchre of the First Ones, or kind of this Greatest Hits of Castle Nathria, Sanctum of Domination, Sepulchre of the First Ones in Shadowlands Season 4? I thought Shadowlands Season 4 was pretty good. Yeah, we didn't get a raid tier, but we got something more than just keep running Sepulchre for the rest of the expansion. Same thing here. Do you guys really want to keep running Amir Drasil for another 4 months? Is that what you want? Because we're going to run it, but when we do, it's going to be fresh each time. We're like, oh, I like this one. This one's fun. 3 weeks later, oh yeah, that's right. Not, oh god, every week, stupid frag. So, while, yes, we didn't get an extra raid, we didn't get, Iridikron's layer of evil, what we got was a good alternate to having a 4th raid, which is, all right, this is kind of sum up season. Now, do I want to see this type of thing going forward? I don't know. Maybe if we have, let's say, Blizzard trims it really nice and they stick to the 8-week thing that they've been wanting to do. So if you go release in 2 patches, 8 weeks, that's 24 weeks. So if you go 24 weeks, that's 6 months. If you do 1, 2, 3, you're at 18 months. You don't need to do a Season 4. You could just move on to the next expansion. They've already got it mapped out. They're not trying to figure out what to do next. They already know. Everything is already prepared. So you could go Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, straight into Season 1 of Midnight. It's not unseen. It's not unreasonable to think that. Now, was there extra development time needed to get through the rest of Dragonflight? Yeah. So is Season 4 kind of a a camouflage of the fact that they weren't quite done with what they needed to do, and so we needed to kind of let Dragonflight have a little bit longer of a shelf life? Yeah, okay, maybe. Is it a bad thing? I don't think so. I would rather have this. At least they're trying. At least they're trying to do something. Developing a raid tier is a tremendous amount of work, not just from the development of the raid, but you've got to scale everything up item level wise. You've got to change basically the entire game. Each of these raid tiers basically represents a mini expansion within the expansion. So it's a tremendous amount of work just from a mathematics standpoint of trying to keep all these things organized. You got to balance all the new trinkets, all the new weapons, the boss encounters. You've got to, there's so much that goes into it. So do I want another raid tier? Yeah, sure. But am I unhappy that we didn't get one? No, I'm actually really happy with what we got, because so far season 4 is a banger. And I'll tell you right now, if we continue to get season 4s, I'm okay with it. If we don't, and we just go 3 seasons and out, as long as the 3rd season is not a 64-week season, I'm fine with it. You know, even if it's like a 32-week season, okay, that's fine. 24, 32, I could live with that. I think you could live with that too. All right, that's going to wrap it up for our show today. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of WoW news going on right now, a lot of WoW conversation. And it's not slowing down. It's going to keep trucking through the summer. So stay tuned to the podcast. I will try and get some YouTube videos uploaded, so keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that. That's at Denethar01. Also, you can catch me occasionally streaming on Twitch at Denethar01. But if you want to just reach out to me directly, you can email me at denethar1@gmail.com, or you can reach me on Twitter. I am at Denethar. And so, yeah, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much. And remember to be kind to each other out there. It's another person, and maybe they didn't know that Mythic Plus 2 changed difficulty, and now it's a Mythic Plus 12. So be nice and try to be understanding. And you know what? You don't have to run with them, but you can explain it to them in a nicer way than just yelling at someone. So just saying. Anyway, yeah, be kind to each other. Make sure to smile. Enjoy your time, because this is really, honestly, this is some of the best times in WoW I've ever had. So, all right, take care all. I love you, and I'll see you